You were never the danger. Never the thrill. Just routine. Predictable. Expected. You were always there, and that was the problem. No mystery. No magnet. They didn't leave because you were broken. They left because you made too much sense. Because being loved without chaos felt boring. And deep down, you knew it. You saw it coming in the way their eyes stopped searching for you. You felt it in the silence that wasn't comfortable anymore. You became the background music in a life that craved fire. And now you sit there wondering, was being good ever enough? There's a kind of heartbreak no one talks about. The kind that doesn't come from betrayal, or screaming fights, or crashing finales. It comes quietly, like a faucet left dripping until the silence floods the room. It's not that they stopped loving you. It's that they stopped noticing you. You were stable, reliable, present. And that made you invisible. We are told that love is built on consistency. That showing up is what matters. But what happens when showing up becomes a mundane? When your reliability turns into white noise? When your kindness becomes background static in a world addicted to chaos? This isn't about victimhood. It's about recognition. Because you played your part, maybe too well. You became safe, grounded, constant. But they weren't ready for peace. They mistook calm for dullness. And in a world high on drama, you were the low note they couldn't hear anymore. This is for the ones who stayed, even when they were overlooked. The ones who gave everything, but weren't exciting enough to be kept. This isn't just a story about being left. It's a story about being forgotten, while still standing right there, because routine doesn't hurt until it's replaced with absence. Until the quiet you offered becomes the silence they leave behind, and now you're stuck with the question, was it you? Or was it them who couldn't stand being seen without a storm? The truth is harsh, but simple. Some people aren't ready for the kind of love that feels like safety. They crave chaos, not consistency. They chase sparks, not substance. And when they meet someone who gives without games, they mistake the absence of drama for a lack of depth. You were just routine isn't an insult to your value. It's a reflection of what they never learned to appreciate. There's a psychological pull in the unfamiliar. A magnetic force in dysfunction, when that's what the heart has known for too long. So when peace walks through the door, it doesn't feel like love, it feels like emptiness. Because they never knew love without tension, without proving, without pain. You weren't boring. You were just normal. But in a life built around survival, normal feels threatening. It doesn't light up the trauma brain. It doesn't scratch the itch of instability. It just is, and that was never your fault, but still, you sat there watching them drift away, pulled toward the chaos they called passion. And all you could do was ask, why wasn't peace enough? This video is about that question. The one that loops in your head like a ghost. Why do they leave the ones who love them calmly and chase the ones who hurt them beautifully? You gave them everything. But you forgot one thing: some people only understand love in the shape of a wound. There's a moment you remember, not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet. The way they started pulling away without a word. The shift in their eyes. How conversations turned into updates. How presence became habit, not choice. You didn't see it at first. You thought it was just stress, life, fatigue. But something colder crept in. Something you didn't want to name. A subtle rejection that didn't shout, it whispered. It's strange, isn't it? To give softness in a world that rewards sharpness. To show up every day, thinking love was enough, that showing up was the proof. But you learned the hard way, some people only notice the absence, never the presence they said they wanted. Someone stable. Someone loyal. Someone who listens. You were all of that and more. But then came the distance. The size. The phone face down on the table. Though I'm just tired, that never ended, they didn't cheat. They didn't scream. They just disappeared while staying. And that's what broke you. Not the leaving, but the slow unraveling of attention, of intimacy, of wanting. You started questioning everything. Maybe if you were more unpredictable, more distant, more difficult, would they have stayed? Would they have fought harder if they had something to chase? You rewrote yourself in your head. Added fire to your softness. Edges to your shape. But it wasn't you. It never was, because you were the kind of person who texted back right away. Who remembered the little things. Who listened when it wasn't convenient. You didn't play games. And maybe that's what made them lose interest. You see, when love doesn't come with pain, some people don't feel it at all. They grew up learning that love must hurt. That it's earned, not given. That it comes after proving you're worthy, not before. So when you walked in, no mask, no defense, no chaos, they didn't know what to do with you. You weren't the roller coaster. You were the ground beneath it. Steady. Solid. Quiet. But not thrilling enough for someone who mistook adrenaline for affection. They looked for fireworks. You offered warmth. They wanted a storm. You were a sunrise, and still, you stayed even when their body was there but their soul had wandered. You tried to bring them back with kindness, with patience, with understanding, but the truth is, you can't compete with someone's addiction to chaos. Not with love. Not with presence. Not even with pain. You weren't routine. You were healing. But healing doesn't feel like home to someone raised in wreckage. So they left. Or worse, stayed with one foot out the door. And you blamed yourself. You thought being good wasn't enough. You questioned your worth. But what if I told you you weren't the problem? What if your peace was never the failure, but the threat? Because when someone's internal compass points toward pain, they don't trust stillness. They sabotage it. Leave it. Replace it with noise, and so you were forgotten, not because you lacked something, but because they did. But here's the secret: you are not here to entertain. You are not here to be consumed, then discarded. You are not here to prove your value to someone who can't even see themselves. You were the calm after the storm. But they never learned how to rest. Only how to run, and that's the tragedy. They left peace and called it boring. Left loyalty and called it clingy. Left safety and called it suffocating. But you remained. Not in their life, but in your truth, in your depth, in your quiet strength, because being consistent in a world full of chaos is not weakness. It's power, and one day, someone will recognize that. Not fear it, not get bored by it, but stay, because your calm finally feels like home to a heart that's done running. Until then, don't shrink. Don't harden. Don't turn into noise just to be heard. Let them chase fire. You keep being the warmth. They didn't leave because you were too much. They left because you didn't hurt them. You answered too fast. You cared too deeply. You were too easy to love, and that made them feel unworthy. They confused your softness with weakness, your stability with boredom, your presence with pressure. They weren't used to being loved without owning it through pain, and now they romanticize your silence because it didn't scream to be heard. You were never routine. They just didn't know what peace felt like until you were gone. So here you are, left with the echo of a goodbye that was never really said. Trying to understand how consistency became forgettable, how love turned invisible, how your presence, once everything, became too much. But the truth is brutal, they weren't ready for the kind of love you gave. The love that didn't require fixing, or proving, or suffering. You gave them a mirror, not a mask. And they looked away because they didn't like what they saw in the reflection. You were the kind of person they said they always wanted, until they had to face what it felt like to actually receive you. People who are used to being abandoned don't always know how to stay. People who have lived in chaos don't always know how to rest. And people who are still bleeding don't always recognize healing when it arrives. But that doesn't mean you were wrong, or broken, or forgettable. It means you were a chapter they weren't ready to read. You were love without noise, without tension, without destruction. And for someone whose heart only knows how to beat in survival mode, peace feels like silence. Stillness feels like emptiness. And routine feels like rejection. But one day, someone will crave the very thing they ran from. Not the drama, not the distance, but the depth, the calm, the reliability. And when they do, they'll think of you. Maybe not with regret, but with understanding. You weren't just routine. You were the place they could have healed. If only they had stayed. If this made something inside you ache, don't just scroll away. Leave a comment, even just one word. Not for views, but for the ones who stayed soft in a world that punished them for it. Someone needs to see they weren't alone.